Everyone, hello, good evening, and welcome to the session. It's Tuesday here, right? And we always, on every Tuesday, come up with a Python series, Python code series. Now we are discussing OOP, right? Object Oriented Programming. We all know OOP is a very important concept when it comes to Python or any coding language, right? Now, as far as today's topic is concerned, we'll be talking about inheritance and polymorphism in OOP, right? So, first thing, we have discussed about OOP, we discussed about other things, we discussed about class and all, right? So, we'll see, first of all, we'll understand what is inheritance and what is polymorphism, and we'll see codes for both of them, right? And we'll combine them together to form a new code. I understand from the previous class you had already started coding, right? You already started with some code, but for today, we'll continue with this, and from the next class, we'll continue with the previously or whatever code you had, right? So, when talk about inheritance, the word itself is something that we understand, right? Inheritance, you inherit something. For example, when we talk about your property, your property, your parents' property, or whatever it's there, or whatever your forefathers had, you inherited that property. Or if we talk about your features, your facial features, or your body, basically, whatever you had, your structure that you inherited from your parents, this means whatever you have is you got it from somewhere. So here also, when we talk about inheritance in OOP is basically deriving or inheriting properties and behavior from another class. Inheritance, when we say, is deriving or inheriting properties and behaviors, or of course, behaviors we also call methods, from another class. Now, when we talk about this another class, this is very important. What who inherits it? A class inherits from another class, right? A class inherits from another class. This means there are two classes here. One class is a main class, and from that you are inheriting something in another class. So basically, this class is called parent class or superclass. Now, when you inherit something, when a class inherits something from another class, this another class is becoming parent class or superclass, and this class basically becomes a child class or it becomes a subclass. This is very, very important to understand. Right. Now, this is parent class and this is child class. In this, there are some key points that you need to understand. First, why do we need inheritance? What do we do basically? Or why do we do inheritance? Why do we inherit something? So we'll talk about three properties here. If we talk about inheritance, we talk about three different points or key points of inheritance, that is code reusability, we talk about hierarchy, and we talk about extensibility. Right. First, we'll see code reusability. Now, it is very, very important because inheritance, when we do, we reuse the code. Well, why do we use the code? Of course, to avoid duplication. So what happens is when we do inheritance, when we do inheritance, basically inheritance enables the code reuse, allowing developers to build upon the existing code. This is inheritance we talk about. Now, we'll see code. Let me just finish polymorphism. And once we finish polymorphism, we'll see the coding part. It will be fairly easy to understand. This concept, when we talk about in OOP, is very easy concept person. Now, we'll talk about polymorphism. Excuse me. We'll talk about polymorphism. Now, now, polymorphism. Now, let's break this word. What it means, polymorphism. When we talk about poly, it means multi, right? And morphism, basically taking different avatars or taking different forms of it. Morphism, changing forms, right? Basically, when we talk about morph, we talk about forms. When we talk about polymorphism, we'll just talk about multiple forms that a code can have. Or when we talk about polymorphism, again, rather than saying multiple forms or multiple different ways of writing the code we do, right? Now, here, what will happen here? Here, same code will respond differently. Now, do we do that? We will see that definitely now. Now, when we talk about polymorphism, again, we'll just write it in a proper way. Polymorphism, what it does, it allows objects of different class to be treated as object of a common superclass. When we talk about different classes, we have different classes that those particular classes become the object of one superclass. There is one superclass, that is, there is one big code, and to that we have multiple different forms. right? This main code, this superclass code will actually, this superclass will change according to the input we are giving or different classes we are using here, right? So what do we do here? What polymorphism supports? Polymorphism supports method of different things. For example, it supports overriding. The polymorphism, when we talk about, is very famous method of a very famous method of method overriding. What it does method overriding. When we talk about method overriding, of course, when we talk about method overriding here, the child class provides its own implementation of a method that is already defined in parent class. What is happening here? Already there is a method that is defined in the parent class, and after that we are overriding it. Oh, one thing is skipped. We didn't continue with inheritance. When we talk about inheritance, we didn't continue with hierarchy and extensibility. Yes, we'll be talking about it. Let's just continue with polymorphism first, and then we'll continue. Next thing we talk about is flexibility that it offers. Flexibility and interchangeability. Right. Now, flexibility. Why? Because we can write more flexible code. We can write more flexible code. And what we can do here, when we're writing more flexible code, we are again reusing the code too. We are again reusing the code too. Now, third type of thing third thing we talk about is again dynamic behavior of it. We'll talk about dynamic behavior. When I talk about dynamic behavior, basically, when we talk about polymorphism, it is the polymorphic behavior that is it changes whenever we run anything, right? In that, when we run the code, it changes according to the code that is already built. Polymorphic behavior here is determined at runtime. What it means? It means that whenever we run the code, then only it is actually determined, right? How it will behave. That is polymorphism. Now, we'll be discussing about inheritance completely, and we'll be discussing about inheritance that we were doing. We were talking about inheritance, right? And inheritance, we saw key feature, key points. We talked about code reusability, right? And we have to talk about hierarchy. When we talk about hierarchy, we all understand if there is a parent class and if there's a child class, again there can be another child class too. It is clearly giving a hierarchy of classes here, right? Where a child is inheriting from the parent, right? For this child, this is a parent, and from this child, this is a again parent. This is a superclass, and we have different subclasses. Now, third thing we could talk about is extensibility. Extensibility, as the name suggests, we are extending something. We are doing extension of something. We are trying to extend something. What do we extend? We extend the functionality. We extend the functionality. Now, what about extending the functionality? We can add functionality to child class without modifying the parent class. That's it. This is extensibility. So three key functions, key points when we talk about inheritance. We have code reusability, class hierarchy of classes, and extensibility. So now I hope it is very clear what is inheritance and polymorphism. Now let's get back and start with code. Let's get back and start with code. Just a minute, team. Just a minute, team. Let me stop my sharing. Now, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the code. We'll first see what is here inheritance, right? So we'll make a class called class animal. For example, we'll make a class animal, and here, so sorry, we'll make a class animal and we'll define function again. Def speak. This is speak self. Now we'll return here for example some generic sound, right? Now first of all, some generic sound, we'll make sure that we run it. We'll run this line, right? We have made a class. Now what we do is we talk about inheriting something. So we'll make a class again. We'll make again a class name is dog here, and we will insert the parent class name here. When we insert parent class name, and we will do def define one function, that is speak, For example, speak we already defined. It gives some generic sound. For example, we talk about this and we talk about speak. Again, what it does, it speaks. We are using self here, right? And we are saying, okay, we say return, oh sorry, return sound woof. Return woof. So when we run it, we know we have created a parent class here. And here, this is a parent class here. This, when we say, is a parent class. And this is a child class. You're seeing here, we are using here, we have this class. And here, this animal is used here and we return woof. So basically, we have inherited here the properties of animal in this. Right. Now, we talk about polymorphism. When we talk about polymorphism, we say in that case, if dog is inheriting, the dog is one thing is doing, it's inheriting, right? So what will we do? That is inheritance. We'll talk about polymorphism now. If we talk about cat, for example, and we say in that case, again, we are using cat as animal here. We again define speak, self, and we return. What sound does it make? It does meow, right? We can run this. Of course, again, we talked about this, right? We talked about different classes. So what will we do? We'll define a, basically a function, animal sound, we have animal here, and we are making, when we're defining, we are printing the same print. Of course, it has to be small letter. Print animal dot speak, and we are calling a function. And we define this. Once we define it, we'll use polymorphism. Now we'll see, in that case, we say dog. We'll just make sure that we store this variable here. For example, we say dog is dog, right? And cat, for example, we say is cat. Cat. Right? We'll run this. So now we have actually stored in a variable dog and cat. We say in that case we want animal sound. Again, we are using the animal sound function. We are calling a function using the class dog. We say here dog. So we see, even if we are using that same definition here, it will give sound woof, right? Output is woof. But when we talk about it, animal sound, and we talk about sound of cat. And when we run this, we get meow, right? Now, here you see different things here. This is the parent class. This is one code that is a superclass, and this is a subclass, for example, subclass, and we are using the superclass here too, and here also. This is also a subclass. But understand one thing, when we are talking about this particular function speak, what it does, it just speaks, right? Now, when we're talking about this particular function, depending on the class we are using, it is changing the output, right? So this is what it is doing. It is having multiple, basically, if we have more classes, if we make more classes, we are using multiple forms of it. See, the same code, the same speak or do a function can be used everywhere here, right? When we defined it and when we talk about some generic sound, woof, meow, everything, we are just doing polymorphism. This is inheritance, but at the very same time, it is even though it's inheriting, it is giving multiple forms when we are defining a function. So it is polymorphism too. So I hope you understood for today what is inheritance and what is polymorphism and the difference between those two, right? It is taking multiple forms. Inheritance is taking just a single form. It's just inheriting the whatever characteristics or the method we have, a behavior we have. Here in polymorphism, it is you giving us different codes for the same or giving different output for the same class. What are we doing here? We are overriding this method. See, every single time we are overriding this method. So this is about inheritance and polymorphism. When we talk about difference of both, when we talk about polymorphism, it is a mechanism by which one class acquires properties and behavior of another class. And here, when we talk about polymorphism, it allows the object of different classes to respond to same method call, right? Different classes we use, different method we made, and yes, same method we use, we continued with the same, right? So code reuse is clearly possible when we are inheriting, when we are making a class cat or dog, we are clearly inheriting it. And when we talk about polymorphism, we are making it more flexible, right? We can handle multiple data types here, classes here. So when we talk about types of inheritance, we have different types of inheritance. For example, there's single, there's multiple, there's multi-level, there's hierarchical, there's hybrid. All these are types of inheritance. When we talk about polymorphism, again, compile time is one, again, method overloading we do, and runtime, that is method overriding. Whatever method we have, we override it. So both of them, if we talk about both of them, inheritance and polymorphism are really important concept when it comes to object-oriented programming. So I hope for today it is very clear. From the next lecture, we'll continue with the further topics. Right. So till that time, it's already 6:50, 5:59. It's already 6, about to be 6, and we'll stop the session here. And yes, we'll continue in the same way in the next session too. Till the time, team, take care. Make sure that you revise whatever we studied today, and then we'll meet again next week. Right. Till time, take care, team. Bye bye. Good night.